Hello, this is Allie with Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today I want to talk about healing. And I want to talk about some very pervasive kind of ideologies that exist in the world about healing and how those ideologies actually block you from healing. And I want to give you a tool that you can start using right here, right now, today, to actually really accelerate yourself on your healing journey, whatever that might look like for you, okay? So I'm talking about physical healing, I'm talking about emotional healing, I'm talking about spiritual healing, I'm talking about all of it, okay? Any kind of healing that you need to do in your life, this is a video that's going to apply to you, okay? So first thing to talk about is kind of the leading idea about healing that's out there in the world right now, okay? So most of us, when we think of healing, right, whether we think of it as like, healing from a disease or healing from an emotional problem or healing from something spiritual or healing from sort of trauma or healing from whatever it is, we think of healing as being a state that we will be in the future. Okay, so that is what we consider healing to be like, just generally speaking, right? We think of it as like, I'm in this state now, which is a state of unwellness, and when I am healed or healing is when I'm in this ideal state or this different state or this better state somewhere off in my future life, okay? And so to kind of boil it down even further, we all tend to believe that healing is something that is going to take place at some point along the line down the future that is going to lead us to being in a different state than we are in right now, okay? And that is, like I say, the kind of like pervasive idea. So like, you do this diet long enough, you will be healed. You do this therapy long enough, you will be healed. You do this, whatever it is that you're doing, long enough, you will be healed. Or if you just give it time, just give yourself time, you will heal. Just give it space and you will heal. Just don't do anything about it. Just allow it to kind of, work itself out, and in time, you will be healed. Okay. So what I want to talk about today is how that idea is actually totally backwards to how healing really works. And I want to give you something to think about and something to ponder inside yourself if you're on a healing journey that may be really helpful for you moving forward, okay? So what I want to offer is this. Healing is not something that happens in the future, okay? In the future, there may be residue of the healing work that you did, which will be, results of not having symptoms anymore, restoring yourself to physical health, restoring mental health, restoring spiritual health. There will be signs and symptoms of a healing process that happened in the future, okay? But your healing cannot happen and can never happen and will not happen in the future because there's nothing you can do about the future right now. Okay, so just think about that for a second, right? The future is something that you have no control over that. You can't touch it, you can't taste it, you can't feel it, you can't manipulate the future, okay? You can absolutely do things in the present moment that will affect your future, okay? But to say that healing is in the future continues to ensure that your healing doesn't happen, okay? Because the truth about healing is, healing happens now. Healing happens right here, right now, in this moment, and in this moment only. All right? So I want you to think of like when you get a cut on your body, okay? We say when you get a cut on your hand, say, your body is not thinking, okay, in time, this cut will be healed, okay? Your body's not going, okay, we're just going to wait it out, and in time, there won't be a cut on the hand anymore, right? Your body says, okay, there's a cut on the hand. So now, we're going to go about rebuilding, or we're going to build up some platelets, right? Build a scab, scar tissue, and then we're going to rebuild skin cells. And we're going to do each one of these things in the moment, and eventually, as a result of that stuff, the cut is gone. Okay, so you see what I'm saying here? that what actually happened in the healing process, or the healing process, was not time, right? Your hand was not waiting for a future event when healing has occurred for it to be healed. You see what I'm saying? It took action in the moment, one step at a time, to rebuild the skin cells and to fasten the skin back together. Okay? So this, because nature is the perfect metaphor for everything, is the perfect metaphor for any kind of healing. And this is what I mean by healing happens right now. Okay? That it's not a future event. It's a present event that continues to happen in the present, every present moment, over and over and over again, that eventually leads you to a new place. Okay, so let me explain this kind of in a different way. When I was healing from my eating disorder, okay, I spent several years working towards healing, as in like waiting for healing, as in continuing to be a sick person, acting like a sick person, thinking like a sick person, being a sick person, hoping that one day I would eventually be a well person. Okay? So again, I was waiting for the healing to happen in time, right? I was waiting for the healing to happen over time. And it never came. Okay? There never came a point where continuing to be sick led me to be well. All right? So what I had to do to actually heal from my eating disorder was I had to slow down, stop, release all the distractions that were going on in my mind, right? Slow down, connect in with myself. And I had to first feel, like really feel what was out of alignment with me, right? So really feel the discomfort of my painful emotional thoughts, to really feel the discomfort of what I was doing to my body, to really feel how out of alignment with myself I was, okay? The second thing that I did was that I started to ask myself, what would a healthy person do, okay? If I started to get myself to visualize and really conceptualize in my mind this person that was well, like that was healthy, that was whole, that was healed from her eating disorder. And I started to consider, what does that person do? Okay, so how does that person think? How does that person eat? How does that person talk about herself? How does that person process her emotions? How does that person deal with the things that arise in her life? Okay? And I started to connect in with who that well person was, who that healed person was. And then what I did was I started acting like her. Okay? So instead of sitting there and feeling ill and feeling out of balance and like really focusing on how sick I was, I started to say, okay, if I were healed, I would think like this. If I were healed, I would not be doing these behaviors. I would be doing these behaviors. There's a huge difference between how the sick version of me behaves and how the well version of me behaves. And so what I was doing was I was taking that future state, right, that healed state that I imagined was somewhere off in the future, and I brought it back to my present moment, which is the only place I have any power anyways. And I started to apply those healing techniques to right now. So what I'm saying is, I stopped trying to heal and I started being healed. You see what I'm saying? I really started to take this idea that in this present moment, this is when I make the new choice. Okay? I notice what's out of alignment with me. I notice what alignment looks and feels like by visualizing my healed state. And then I make the choices that move me closer to that alignment in this moment. Okay? So this is what I'm saying about healing, is that healing happens when you visualize and understand where you're going, right? We all have a vision for our healed place. And I want you to understand too that if you feel like you don't have a vision for your healed place, it's very likely that you you have just been so not well for so long, or that your not well state is so intense and so painful and so hard that allowing yourself to hope for something better is just super painful and you don't want to do it. And I get that. Okay, so I just want to let you know that if you've got that block where you just like don't even want to hope for healing, you don't even want to see yourself well, and maybe when people suggest to you that you can be well, it's like offensive and it hurts your feelings and you kind of feel like you want to punch them and explain to them why you're sick, and or you know, like what happened to you, and all of the reasons why you are the way that you are. Totally, I get that. I understand that pain, and this is kind of one of the main reasons why I think people don't heal, is because we get to a place where even just imagining ourselves well feels so heartbreaking because it feels like it's so far away from where we are right now, or we get to a place where we are afraid to admit that what we need to do is change our habits and change our thoughts and change our behaviors right here, right now. And we kick the can off into the future, like my future healed self will be like that, my future healed self will be like that, my future healed self will be like that. But we never actually have to take the responsibility now, okay? Because this is the thing. Healing is going to be uncomfortable. Whatever kind of healing you need to do, you're going to have to change your habits. You're going to have to change the way that you live. If you're in a diseased state, right? Something in your environment, something about the way that you're living, thinking, breathing, feeling, blah, 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 is causing that dis-ease. That is a reaction, right? And so in order to create wellness, you have to have different things acting on you, right? And change is hard and change is scary, and we don't want to do it, okay? So this is what I'm saying. It's like, so when I was healing from my eating disorder, and I was visualizing my healed self, and I was realizing that the way that, you know, I felt when I imagined that person, the way that I could see that I behaved, the way that I could see that I thought, the way that I could see that I did things, was dramatically different than how I was living as a sick person. And it scared me to have to make those changes. Those changes were scary, okay? Because it wasn't my comfort zone. It wasn't what I knew. It wasn't how I was used to behaving. And it flew in the face of all my justifications for why I was sick, right? Because I had a lot of those. I had a lot of reasons why I was sick. I had a lot of evidence for why I was sick, right? Lots of things happened to me that caused me to be sick, and it was a lot of other people's faults and a lot of things, blah, blah, blah. I had all the excuses in the world for being sick, right? And so what had to take place, right, was two things. I had to first realize that I needed to start behaving like a well person now. I needed to do what I could do now. So that didn't mean that I was monitoring my behavior to be like the perfect, not anorexic person, right? It was just, what can I do right now in this moment today that moves me closer to being in alignment with that and less in alignment with this, right? So, you know, for a long time it was like, okay, what would I eat today if I wasn't trying to lose weight or gain weight or manipulate with my weight, if I was just already perfect, if I already healed, I already have everything I want, how am I eating, right? And I just started to make choices from that place, and it was scary, right? Letting go of like choosing food based on how thin it was going to make me was scary. Letting go of making all of my decisions based on like, you know, when I was going to work out the day, what I was going to eat that day, and like letting my whole world be preoccupied with food and my body and stuff was scary. Because when I let go of that stuff, a bunch of other things came in, like my emotions and my other dark thoughts and other things that were going on with me that were scary that I didn't want to face. But this was the thing, right? The well me faced those things. And the emotionally stable me knew how to handle negative emotions and was capable of facing myself and being with myself and being silent and being bored and all of these things. And I knew it, right? And so I, like I say, just slowly but surely started to align myself with that, right? In the moment I was in, I started taking responsibility for my behavior, taking responsibility for my actions, taking responsibility for the fact that I was out of alignment with myself, and started to behave in a way that brought me closer and closer and closer to that alignment. And so what I want to offer you is this, is like, you know what it's going to feel like to be well. You have a vision. I know that you do, because it's genetically in your body to be healthy, right? It's literally wired into your system to be the healthiest, most vibrant version of yourself possible, okay? That is natural and that is innate to you, all right? And so that vision is available, and if it isn't, the first step is to just sit and consider, what would it be like to be the healed person? The mentally healed person, the emotionally healed person, the physically healed person, the spiritually healed person. What is it like to be like that? What's that vision? Okay? So that future vision that I'm working toward all the time. What does that actually look like? What does that feel like? What does that sound like? Okay? And then you start to ask yourself, how would I behave as that person? How would I think as that person? How would I breathe as that person? How would I eat as that person? How would I speak about myself as that person? What kind of things am I doing in the day as that person? And you start to say, okay, if I'm thinking and feeling and breathing and, allowing myself to mentally align with this version of myself that is healed, what needs to shift right here, right now, today, in this moment, that aligns me closer to that? And then understand that there's going to be resistance. You're going to be scared. You're not going to want to do it. You're going to have a whole bunch of excuses why you shouldn't have to, or why it won't work, or why it's not worth it, or why it's too hard, or why you're not ready, and all that stuff. And just know that that stuff is going to come up, okay? Be okay with the fact that it's going to feel like an uphill battle. But if you are able to take responsibility for your healing right here, right now, in this moment, that is not off in the future, that future vision is just the thing that tells you what you need to be doing now to get there, that's how you're going to get there, okay? Healing does not happen in the future. It can't happen in the future. It can only happen in this moment. It can only happen right here, right now, where you have power, okay? So you have to start making new choices that align with the healed you today, in this moment. And it's scary to take responsibility. I know that. I was the same, okay? I still wanted to blame everything and everyone around me. I had all these reasons why I was sick. And this is not just with my eating disorder. This was like everything that I've ever healed from, okay? Physical stuff, mental stuff, emotional stuff. There's been so many things that I've healed from, and the only way that I've done it has been taking responsibility in this moment to say that my life is worth it, and my health is worth it, and my healing is worth it. And yes, I have all these reasons why I'm sick, and I have all this justification and da-da-da-da, but at the end of the day, I deserve to be well, and I'm going to own that. And even just that, even just saying, yeah, well, even though all this shit happened to me, I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be well. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't even know what that looks like, but I'm deciding that I deserve to be well. That is enough, okay? And then you start to visualize what that healed person looks like. And then you start to take action every single day, every moment you can think of, that aligns you with that more than this, okay? Because healing is now. Healing is only now. Healing can only ever be now, right? And then, like I say, over time, for sure, if every single moment, or, many moments, majority of the moments, 50% of the moments, you are choosing to align yourself with the healed you, and you make action and take choices from that place, over time, it accumulates and you end up healed. Okay, but that's the only way. It has to be done now. Okay, so if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I love hearing from you. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Find me on Facebook, Perceptive Trainers. Find me on Instagram, Ali_Perceptive Trainers. And I will see you in the next video.